Hello and welcome to DK's Lab. This is your boy DK. Today we are going to talk about DNS. We are going to install our first instance of our DNS, and that would be PiHole. If you remember on our previous videos, we talked about how to start Home Lab the right way, and this was the diagram that we are working on through this Home Labbing series. If you remember, we created our PFSense. We also installed our first instance of Proxmox, and now we are working on the virtual machines here. Currently, we are on the first one, which will be on VLAN 7, and that virtual machine will have two softwares, the PiHole and Cloudflared. Cloudflared will be our DNS over HTTPS and will be our upstream DNS. That's where all our queries will be going through. So the DNS to set on our machines will be PiHole. That will be sending queries to Cloudflare that are going outside to the internet. Anything that is local, it will be PiHole will be directing it to bind9, which will be our local DNS server or our authoritative DNS server. I know if you have not watched previous videos, you might be asking why we have this kind of setup. And the main reason is because I want to have DNS doing its own work. Like I want bind9 to be purely authoritative DNS for our internal domain name. And I want PiHole to be our recursive resolver, and that is like a middleman between our client and the other DNS servers. So this one will be connected to Cloudflare. Cloudflare will be sending all these queries to outside to the root name servers, TLD name servers. All those information about DNS, you can go back and watch the video that I will link on this on the description of this video. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and do the installation. So this is the machine that I'll be working on, and if we do IP address, you can see my IP address. Here it is. It's on the VLAN 7. According to the diagram we had, this VLAN 7, which is 172.16.7.0 network. So to install, we will start by installing PiHole. To install PiHole, you just go to the PiHole documentation and follow the instructions in there. And there's not many steps to work on. There's a script, a bash script here. If you're afraid because you can see what is in this script, you can go ahead and use the alternative methods down here, either method 1 or method 2. But for me, I trust the source, and I've also looked at the script. So I'll go ahead and use the script itself to do the installation. So these should take a few minutes, and should take us to a wizard where we are going to answer a few questions. And here we go. This says it's going to transform our device into a network ad blocker, and we have no other choice than that saying okay. Powered by donations here. Then it will give you a warning that PiHole needs a static IP address. Mine I've not assigned a static IP, but I've reserved static IP on my PFSense. I've reserved the IP address on PFSense, so I'm good to go. We'll say continue. Now it's going to ask you what is the upstream DNS you're going to use. At this time, I'm going to use any, so I'm going to pick the first one, which is the Google one already in there. If you're not going to configure any other upstream DNS, you can use Google, or you can use the Cloudflare or Quad 9 if you want more secure DNS. But for me, I'm going with the top one because I'm going to change and use Cloudflared as my custom DNS. So okay, and yeah, I'm going to use the third-party list for block list to start with. So I'm going to say yes. Would you like logging? Yes. And I'm going to log everything. Since this is my internal DNS, I want to see every query. Just say okay. So the installation is complete. Here is how to access the web interface. So for us, we're going to use the IP address and /admin. So do I need this password? No, I will reset the password and set a stronger password. So okay, and now the installation is done. If I go to this web page, refresh, and say forgot password, wrong password, then now I can go ahead and copy this command to reset my password. I'm going to paste it here. Say password, and I'm going to type in my strong password, retype, and that should be set. So if I come here and type in my password, login, I'm logged into my PiHole installation. So one thing I do here, go to settings and I go to DNS, and I've already, if you have basic on this tab, toggle it to go to advanced, or show expert on that one. And I want to change this and do permit all origins, since I'm going to have this PiHole routing or answering all my DNS queries for all the VLANs. And I'm going to save those changes. And now it's time to go ahead and install Cloudflared. I'm going to install it on the same machine. So I'm going to clear my screen to install Cloudflared. Now we're going to this documentation, which is on PiHole again website under guides, and it has quite or a good information of why use DNS over HTTPS, how to configure. But for us, we are interested on installing, so we are going to get the first link, which is a link to download Cloudflare, and gonna get it downloaded. It's done. Then we're going to install, and this should take it's done. Let's check the version. We got 2025 2.1. So if you're installing these on CentOS, Red Hat, or Fedora, these are the instructions. If installing it on Raspberry Pi, if it's 32-bit, here is the instructions 64-bit here. So select instruction based on the architecture you're using or the operating system you're going to use. So from here, we are going to create a user to manage Cloudflare, and this user will be a no login user. Let's go ahead and do that. We have the user created. Then now we are going to create a configuration file. Here's the configuration file. So in the configuration file, we are going to copy. So if you're going to have your own location created where you're going to have your own upstream DNS in Cloudflare, like me, I'll be using my own. I went ahead and created my DNS on Cloudflare, then went to Zero Trust and created a location which is DK slab down here. This location has the configuration I need to use here. If you don't have a location created on Cloudflare and you don't plan to go there, then you can still use a DNS of HTTPS, and that you're going to use this line here, this configuration down here, which has the publicly available DNS for Cloudflare, and that will work very fine. So for me, I'm going to copy the top one. I'm going to paste it in here and remove up to that point. So I'm going to paste my upstream DNS here. Now I don't want to share these online, so I'm going to get out of or pause the video a little and paste mine, then save, and that's all I need to create on this file. See you in a. So once you have your configuration file done, then the next step is to change permissions or update permissions, and we are going to change owner for our configurations file to be the Cloudflared user we created and group. Then we are going to do the same for the second file in /user/local. Once that is done, we are going to create a systemd service for our Cloudflared so that it can be starting on or when the machine boots. And we are going to put the following script in this file, and that's all we need to do. We don't need to modify anything. So Control X, save, and then what is remaining is to enable and to start the service. So I got the service enabled. I need to start it, and I want to check the status. And yep, as you can see, it is enabled and active. So we are all set. So to test these setup if it's working, we are going to use the command dig, and we are going to say at local. This is the local IP address or the local net for any local machine. So this will be the same for everyone. So we are going to try and see if we can resolve google.com, and see we are using port 5053. If you remember, when we are creating our configuration, that's the port we gave to Cloudflared, and that is to avoid conflict with the PiHole, which is using port 53 for DNS. And as you can see, we are able to get results or answer from our server, our local DNS, and now we are set to go. So this is what I will need to put on my PiHole. So remember, I'm using Google DNS, so I'm going to remove that one, and on custom I'm going to add the local IP address, and it's 50.53, and now this will be my the upstream DNS for PiHole. So any request that comes to PiHole will forward to this, and any queries that are going through Cloudflared, which is now the local address of using the port 5053, will be encrypted. And that's all we need to do on PiHole and Cloudflare. Now let's go ahead and test this. So we come back to our pfSense, and let's go to general setup, and we are going to put a DNS here. We're going to put 72.172.16 minus 7.2, and I'm going to save. And before I tried on the LANs, let's go to DNS lookup and try to look up www.google.com. And as you can see, we are getting results, and these results are coming from 172.16.7.2. So that means our DNS is working, and our pfSense is using the PiHole DNS. So now we can go ahead to the services, DHCP server, and currently I'm connected on home network, and I'll go ahead and do a DNS here of 172.7.2, and I'm going to save the changes, apply. Then we are going to test and see if I can browse using the new DNS. So as you can see on my laptop, I'm able to get I'm assigned the DNS, which is 172.16.7.2, and if I do CLS and just ping www.google.com, I'm already able to ping it. So that's just a basic test to see whether I'm able to ping the internet. So remember, if you're on Ubuntu, and on the previous video on things I do after installing Ubuntu, I always enable Firewall. So if you have your Firewall enabled, then you need to add these rules. You need to add to allow port 53 for TCP and 53 UDP. Also, you need to allow HTTPS traffic and HTTP, and that you can do by allow HTTPS, and the second command do HTTP. But if you're going to use HTTPS to access the interface for the firewall, then the interface for the PiHole, then use HTTPS. If you're going to use either HTTPS or HTTP, enable, make sure you allow both traffic. And we can go ahead and see. Let me see if I can access Subaru.com. As we look at that, let's go to logs. And as you can see on my PiHole, I have already some queries being logged in. If I can show all, you can see all my requests. And if I point on this request was forwarded to 172.0.0.1.5053. So for the first time when you do a request, then it's being forwarded to the Cloudflared, then Cloudflared gives a response. If you look at these, the Google user content is the same as this one, and if you point in here, this one will be served from cache memory, so it means it sent the request, then our PiHole has already stored those records in there, so it doesn't need to go back and get them again. And that's how you set up PiHole and Cloudflared on your home lab. So next, in the next video, we are going to set up our bind DNS, which will be our primary, and on that video we are going to set both bind 9, the primary and the secondary, because they have a different setup. The primary and secondary, you don't have like the same configuration the same way you're going to have for PiHole 1 and PiHole 2. So the same thing we have done today, go ahead and do for your second PiHole or your third PiHole if you're using more than one. If you're using one, then what we've done today is all you need to do. Bind 9, we're going to do both the primary and the secondary in the next video. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye.